Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's good to connect again.
Yes, hasn't been that long. Just said it was really great, like just being able to connect and chat. And I just felt like it was so easy to talk to you guys. And I almost feel like this whole experience has not been accidental. Meeting you guys and feeling so comfortable and being able to talk about the whole process and everything that's been going on. It just feels so natural.
Yeah, and it,
So
it really shows the power of sharing and connection and like when you find people that understand or have some sort of like understanding of what you've just gone through because the workshop can take you so deep and then you can kind of leave the workshop space and be like, who do I even talk to that's going to get what I've just gone through? So when we can continue to connect and nurture those relationships with people that get it, it just really transforms the healing experience in like such amplified exponential ways. You just go so much deeper when you're able to share.
yes,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that because before I came to your workshop on Sunday, I was feeling really, really alone. And, like my partner is really good at listening to what I'm going through right now, but he's not the one experiencing it. He's not going on this journey with me. And it was very comforting to know that there's other people on a similar journey or other people that have gone through same kind of traumas and dealt with the same things and able to share and talk about it and know that I'm not crazy because that's always a thing. And, B, that I'm not alone and that there are others out there, like minded spiritual people that have also gone through a journey like this.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most like important parts of the healing journey is to really find a safe container, a support system, a community, because it can be such a lonely journey and it can be so overwhelming. And for probably the first maybe 5 years of my journey, I felt really alone, and it was so easy to go back into old ways, patterns, behaviors, and all of those things because I didn't really have the accountability. It was easy for me to just be like, this is too hard. I'm going to go and party now, or I'm going to shut down or avoid and use these different coping mechanisms because it was so overwhelming. And I didn't really have anyone to kind of be like, I'm here for you, because I wasn't
Yes.
really in the space to be there for myself yet.
A support system, which I think is very, very important. And a similar situation in that, I left my support system in South Africa. And when I was in South Africa, I knew a lot more people that were in the same kind of space, not technically going on the same journey as me, but we're also, into meditation and yoga and doing these retreats and understand like how beneficial they are for you. And then I came to New Zealand and I kind of lost that. And it was very hard because I sat back going, well, how do you find that? How do you find those kind of people or connect to those kind of people? And I've been very blessed that my spirit guides and angels have always been so good at getting me on the right path and bringing those people to me when I needed them. And I thought it was so weird that for the last 4 years, that wasn't happening. And it kind of added to the loneliness and added to the anxiety I was feeling. But like what you just said, when you were ready, it kind of happens. And I think a lot of it was that I wasn't ready to face all of this. I had to first find security here for my family before I could start working on all these things again and truly face them and go, right, you know what, now there's no hiding away from it anymore. And the moment I made that decision, all of a sudden I met you and your workshop came up randomly, like, and okay, like I said, I don't think this is a random thing because I think that it was meant to be, but your workshop came up on my Facebook newsfeed randomly because I wasn't looking for it, and it just popped up right at the right moment when I was feeling like I need something. And so I thought that that was really, really special.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a good way to start the journey.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so, like, such a common thing that we go through is that we do go into that kind of depth of disconnection and loneliness, and we go into these quite deep dark holes, and then something kind of like is that breaking point or that tipping point that shifts. And sometimes there are those things that we need to take care of first, like our survival needs and kind of landing in a new space, like in a new country, or even whether that's a new home or a new whatever it is for you. But it's like you've got to build that foundation, and
Mm.
then you can kind of take that next step and that next step. And it sounds like that's kind of what you were doing, is taking those steps and just trying to work out, like being kind of shifting it. That's a massive change to go from South Africa to here, and
Yeah.
to leave that support system behind. And I think there's so many people that do feel called to travel and go somewhere else,
Mm.
but you do give up quite a bit in that, in doing that.
Yeah. I never thought I'd ever leave South Africa, but when it came up, I knew it was the right thing to do. I wasn't even worried or scared about it. Like, it was really interesting because I'd never even been to New Zealand. Sorry, I have my daughter here. Um, I'd never even been to New Zealand, so I was really just like, "Yep, let's do it." Never been there. Don't know what the people are like. Don't know what's going to happen. Have no clue what the place is going to look like. And I still laugh because I went onto Google Maps and I zoomed into New Zealand and I was like, right, where is there no earthquakes and no volcanoes? And let's go live there. And I found myself at the very top of the North Island and I zoomed in and there's nothing there. And I was like, where am I going? What kind of country am I going to go live in? And yeah, and I truly believe that it was also part of getting me to this point of the journey, is that I needed to come to New Zealand and I needed to feel alone. I needed to be alone, um, away from all those comforts, because I have a lot of traumas from my childhood and my past that I thought I had dealt with. I thought, well, I've made it this far and I seem fine. I must be fine. But clearly I'm not. Yeah, and I didn't realize at the time that I hadn't dealt with all the trauma. And because it was very easy, I had a lot of ways of escaping it, I suppose. Like I could lean on my sister, or I could lean on whoever, or my friends, or pretend it's not there, go out, have a good time, party, whatever it was. And I think it was just really easy to hide from it and not deal with it. And being here and being alone and not having those people around me and going through COVID, I think the lockdowns last year were massive in this move, in the shift, because those were affecting me on a different level too. And it just got to a point where it was like, oh, hang on, I actually think there's more here. It's not just that I don't like being trapped in a house anymore. Like, I think there's some emotional stress and anxiety, and like trying to figure out where is it all coming from. And then, of course, coming out of lockdown and this year, looking at life going back to normal as it would be. My family started reaching out and being like, oh, we really want to come visit. It's going to be so great. And that was the turning point, because I ended up going, instead of being excited about the visits, I ended up having anxiety over the visits. And I ended up freaking out and going, well, I don't know if I can have them visit, because what if this happens? And then my feelings started coming up and going, well, I haven't thought of all these things in a long time. I clearly am still upset about them, or I've got some issues I haven't dealt with, and the things that happened as a child. And, if my parents come here, what if I say something and then I ruin it for everybody? Or they do something that upsets me. And I don't know, I went through this whole thing. And that's what really kickstarted this journey of, well, you know what, maybe I need to look inside first. Maybe I got to figure that out. And I started seeing a therapist, and luckily I found one that's quite spiritual. And she said something to me that I thought was very valuable, and something that I think lots and lots and lots of people forget, is that you don't have to have those people around you if you don't think that they're adding value. No matter who they are, whether they're your mom or your dad, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your best friend, if it is not good for your mental state and your family's mental state, you do have the choice of saying no. And I have the choice of saying, yeah, it's great that you're coming to visit, but you're going to need to find an Airbnb or a hotel, and you unfortunately cannot stay in my home for those 2 weeks. And I think that was a really big thing for me, because I was like, what? I can actually say that? No, I don't believe that, you know? And yeah, and then like I said, I found you through Facebook, and this is what's now started the whole process of realizing I have a lot of emotions that I need to work through, a lot that I've bottled up over the years, a lot of things of where it's been more okay, the situation has happened, right? We don't have time to look like we're weak. We don't have time to show emotion. We don't have time for the world to judge us or tell us that we can't deal with the situation in any way. We got to show everyone that we're a big girl. We can do this. We can take the world on, and we're going to be stronger, and let's move forward. And the problem with that is, even though it seems great, is a couple of things happen that you're not aware of. The first is you become hyper independent, which basically tells everybody around you that you don't need them, which affects your relationships. And it also puts up all these walls so that nobody can get close to you or really know how you feel. Or when things are hard or you're struggling, you can't tell someone, hey, I'm really struggling today, or I'm having a bad day, like, can I talk to you about it, or can you help me? Because you've kind of grown up to believe that that's a weakness. And so by bearing all those emotions, I pretty much is like a bottle. You can't put any more in there and keep it closed. pretty much, pretty much. And so what I found super interesting about the workshop that you provide, which I am eternally grateful to you and your husband, because I was just blown away. I have done many, many workshops, and I have done a couple of cacao ceremonies, and none of them have affected me in a positive way the way your guys' workshop has. And you guys must have some really special magic that you're not telling me about.
Slip something in the cacao.
Yeah, you definitely slipped something extra in there. Some potion. But it is the first time that I felt that it really worked and helped open up and unblock everything that I've been blocking inside me for so long. It almost felt like all of my chakras were just exposed, and there was nothing I could do about it except let it be. And that's part of my journey now, is stop controlling everything and let it be. And I could feel that on Sunday. I could really, really feel that I absolutely could not control that. And I felt like it was really deep, deep, deep sorrow and deep heartbreak that I was releasing. And some of it I wasn't even aware of, that came to me, and I was like, oh crap, I didn't even know that affected me, or that had upset me, or that I was even worried about that. I truly believe your breath work absolutely helped. Having the cacao with that breath work was next level, really. Like, I don't even think I have the words to describe the feeling that I felt. Like, my body was tingling. And I've done ayahuasca ceremonies where you really feel like you're in space, and your workshop was taking me to another plane. very similar as what you would feel if you did do psychedelics or anything like that, you know. And I think it was a very natural feeling and a natural place to go to. It wasn't an altered state that is caused by a drug. It felt like it was a place that you should be able to tap into any time on a regular basis, that maybe is unfamiliar when you have been coached for so long to not deal with these things, you know.
Yeah, it's your body's wisdom, like reconnecting to your physical body, because we tend to like shut off from here and we stay in the head because we can control and we can analyze, and or we at least think that we're controlling everything by staying in the head, but we just shut off from here, and so we don't really let our voice be heard. We don't really know what emotions we're actually feeling, and sometimes I think the anxiety comes through because it's like our body's starting to get louder and it's starting to say, hey, there's some stuff here, or that bottle's getting full and it needs to burst. And so that anxiety starts to come up and be like, hey, there's some stuff here. And we start to freak out because it's like, I don't have the tools. I don't know what this is. And we can go into that freak out mode and we're like, how do I control this? How do I fix this? And we haven't, like you said, we haven't been taught how to actually be connected and to feel and express ourselves, to feel our emotions. We are really programmed to push them down and to like to be in this state of it's all good, I can take care of myself, I'm strong, like emotions are weak, and we have all these different programs and beliefs that we get from so young. And the problem is that our parents often, if they're not doing their own work, they don't realize what they're putting out there. They don't realize what their words and what their actions are teaching us.
Yeah.
And so that was huge for me as well. Like, I love what you said about stuff that was coming up you weren't even aware was there. And I often share with clients and in our workshops that I didn't think I had trauma when I started my journey. And when I found breath work, which was not intentional, I wasn't looking for it, I didn't know it was a thing. And I just started to realize how much I was holding in my body and how much trauma I actually did have. But there's also those kind of misunderstandings of what trauma is, because a lot of the time we're like, trauma is this big thing. And so sometimes we might have a couple of them, or we don't think we really have any of them at all. But those little t traumas, those subtleties, and those belief systems or things that were said to us when we were so young and vulnerable and sensitive and like these little sponges, it can be something that we would hear today that might not be that big a deal. But when it was said then, it's huge.
Yes, as kids, what I've realized with having my own daughter is how easy it is for you to say something you don't mean, but also on the opposite side, that the kid will take it really to heart because they're so young and they don't really understand the whole world. You know, I've had quite big moments with my own daughter who's showing me the way she's really, really special in that, you know. And I think you could maybe relate on that front, that having a child definitely also helps you with dealing with this journey because
Yeah.
they show you so much of yourself. It is unreal. And she has shown me many times of when I'm going, oh, okay, that's not okay, we got to find another way to work through this or deal with this. Or, you know, I one of my biggest things, like even doing this journey, one of my goals is that I can give her the tools so that she knows what to do, and hopefully I can eliminate a lot of these traumas for her. I mean, no one gets out of this life with no trauma, unfortunately. That's one thing I've learned. But if we are able to eliminate the big ones and work hard as a human race together to provide as much love and support and connection and community, like all those things you said, because that really resonates with me in the fact that I feel my parents' generation was a very traumatic generation. They dealt with war. They dealt with not only war with in their generation as such, but even with their parents. You know, their parents were in World War II more than likely, or as nurses, or had to flee a country. Like I've met so many people in that situation. Um, our parents also were in a generation where men had to be men. You were not allowed to show emotion. You're not allowed to cry. You were not allowed to disobey. You had to respect. I was in a generation where children were seen and not heard. You do not speak to an adult. You disappear the moment you go and visit another family home, or you go and occupy yourself. You do not interrupt a conversation. You help and offer to like get drinks and clean up after people. Like, it's a very weird thing to think about, because you're like, well, actually, that's not how it should be. Children should be heard, because that's where it all is. The children are the ones that are going to be the adults that have all the trauma that we have to fix. The children are the ones that are going to be the next generation that leave this world in a better place. The children are the ones going to school and taking their traumas out on other children.
Mm.
Like, we definitely should be hearing them. They should
Yeah.
not just be seen and not heard. We should
Yeah.
definitely be hearing them.
Yeah, and like you said, they show us our unhealed wounds. They show us so much that actually gives us infinite opportunities for our own healing and liberation.
Yeah.
They're really here to help us and to, like, even definitely for me, I really relate with having Theo. Like, it's an intense journey. I'm triggered all the time, but it's the most joy that I've ever felt. And he shows me where I'm still got areas to work on. And I think we've always got areas to work on. And I think that's the joy of being here, is that evolution and that growth, um,
Yes.
and getting to connect and explore and experience and feel and all of that. But like you said, trauma is part of the human condition. No one escapes it. And I often get people share with me, oh, I don't really have trauma. And it's like, it's a little giggle because I resonate because I felt that. But there's also this kind of like, trauma is a big word of like, oh, I don't want to own, I don't even want to think that I have trauma, because if I shine that light of awareness, I got to do something about it.
Yes. And right now, life feels good to me and everything's fine. Nothing's falling apart. Nothing's breaking. Like, I should be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to deal with that, like.
Yeah. And it's so common that happens when things are good. We don't look at the stuff that's inside, but really that's the perfect time to look within, because we've actually got the capacity to go within and stay grounded and centered as we heal and feel and express. But when we usually do it when we go into those deepest pain points, when we're in such intensity and overwhelm and emotional states that we don't really have the capacity to hold space for ourselves, but it's so painful that we need a solution now. And
Yeah.
that's what usually what propels us forth and redirects us onto that healing journey. And that's sometimes that's exactly what we need. But what if we could actually transition and find ways to flow with more ease and to be more grounded, so that we can actually consciously choose to go into our healing to make it more of a smoother, enjoyable process? Because for me, it was 5 years of intense highs and lows and a lot of suffering, until it started to shift where I actually started to enjoy my journey. I was always focused on the destination, and then there was a shift happen. And it started when I found breath work, and it took a little bit of time to really shift. It was probably about a year of kind of like resisting, but then it got to a point where usually actually when Theo came through, I actually slowed down and I started to, you know what, this is what I'm feeling. I'm not going to try and force it or fix it or get rid of it or avoid it. I'm just going to feel, because I'm pregnant, and I can actually just say, you know what, I'm pregnant. I got hormones. It was my excuse for being emotional. But actually, no, it was the activation of dormant energy in my body, of like, now I've actually got that energy flowing from having this being inside. I can express myself freely and not be judged for it.
Yes.
And that was like a massive shift for me. And then through that, through feeling even the deep, dark emotions that I really struggled with, I came out the other side and I've never felt so much joy and peace and love. And yeah, I still get triggered every day, but now I actually enjoy the journey now. I am not
Yeah.
so much seeking a specific destination. Like, I have goals, yes, I have desires and things I want to achieve and all of that, but I'm really living my life for the first time, which is
That's
really
so
cool.
special. That really is so special. And I love that you got to do that while you're pregnant. Like you say, I mean, it's a really good excuse. And I do believe that on another level, when you're pregnant, you're even more connected to the spiritual side than any other time in your life. Like, while I was pregnant with my daughter, I could really, really feel it. It was quite intense, but um, I wish that I got to feel that raw emotion during that time. Unfortunately, like with everything that was going on for me as well at that stage, I was even more protective, because then I was like, right now I have this kid and she's coming into the world and I need to be stronger than ever for her. And I was also trying to protect myself from everyone else, because unfortunately at the time I was getting attacked from every angle of like people saying that I won't be able to do this and you can't be a mom and all these things. And I was like, well, again, another thing where it's like, I'll prove you wrong, and who do you think you are saying these things to me? And so I couldn't be emotional, because if I was emotional, it would be having the wolves at the door, which is sad in a way. But I think part of even being away and being here now has given me that opportunity to be like, you know what? It is okay. It is okay to be emotional. It is okay to feel the things you feel. And I even do that with my partner every time I get upset about something. And, the typical man where they like to be like, oh, is it that time of the month? I get real triggered by that. That is a big trigger for me, because I'm like, you know what? As a woman, I am allowed to feel the emotions I am feeling anytime, any time of the day, any time of the week, any time of the month, doesn't matter. I am allowed to feel my emotions and I'm allowed to process them. It's things like that that stop us from processing, where people are always judging or always being like, oh, careful of her, it's that time of the month. No, emotions are emotions. And we should be allowed, no matter even if you are a man or a woman, you should be allowed to process it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's our birthright to feel and to express. Like that's why we're here. We've all got our unique way to express and share with the world, and a lot of us are so shut down and don't feel safe to feel our emotions. And so
Yeah.
that's what I really love about what we do, and sharing these workshops and bringing in the cacao and the breath and the sound and creating that space that gives us the opportunity to go within, to feel and express without that judgment, because we're all there for our own reasons. And sometimes it can feel a little bit daunting, especially when I share that sometimes we tend to bring in vocal expression. We start to hear all the different emotions moving around the room, and it can feel a little bit, yeah, confronting
But
and a little bit
awkward
scary.
sometimes.
Yeah, and it can be like,
Yes.
oh, who's listening to me? But it's so crazy because we're all there for our own reasons, and we're all there to feel and to express, whether we realize it, that's why we signed up or not. But it's so amazing because every workshop we run, it's just this beautiful container that we all co-create, that we
Yes.
actually open that space to be like, you know what, this is my time to feel, this is my time to just be me. And you kind of come into your own little cocoon. Like there is this collective dynamic that's there, and we do feel and hear and witness others, but it's more, we're very internal, and we're in this little cocoon where whatever needs to come through comes through for you. And it's different for everyone. Sometimes there's a lot of sound, sometimes there's a lot of movement, and the different things that come through. But sometimes we actually do have more of a still, silent journey, and we're just very internal, becoming aware of what's inside ourselves. It's
Yeah,
quite magical.
it is. And you know what I've really loved about how you did the workshop is how you started by saying, you had Theo there and he brings his own special energy to the room. And even though he's a little boy, I did feel a massive feminine energy in the room that day. And I don't know if that like also has something to relate to when I did break down and I let all the emotions out, like it just came flying out of me. I felt like a baby. I felt like a kid who's breaking down on the floor and crying and sobbing, and it's just all coming out just like a baby would or a kid would, And how often in our lives can we say that we've allowed ourselves to be like that? Be
Yeah.
as raw as that. And I feel like he definitely brings that kind of special presence into the room to allow you to feel like it's okay to express yourself that way. I definitely felt that, and I really appreciated it, because yes, you like you say, you do go into a bit of a cocoon, because I did feel that too. I felt it was really interesting about the movement though, because I would be comfortable in a position until a certain point where, and it wasn't a point of like, okay, you've been in this position for long. It was like, how my body was feeling and how the emotions were channeling and how the sounds in the room were going was actually determining how comfortable I was and how I needed to move and what my body needed. Because when I broke down and cried like a baby, I found myself in the baby pose. And then when I got through that, my body all of a sudden didn't want to be in that pose anymore. And it felt like my legs were quite sore, like they needed to be stretched out. They're almost like they needed me to I don't know, like almost like Reiki, where you just like let them out your feet, all that energy that was holding and stagnant for some reason. I don't know why it was in that position of my body. I suppose it just manifests where it manifests, but that was how I felt. And I knew I needed to move and I needed to lift my legs and I needed to change the position. And
Yeah, and I really love that you shared that. I do feel like Theo does bring such a unique energy into the space, and I really trust that this is exactly how we were meant to move through our journey together. Because sometimes it can be like, oh, is it all good for him? Like, there's a lot of stuff that's moving through, but this all came through when he came into my body, and it really just um, came through so divinely. And I do feel like he really helps people to tap into their innocence and their raw expression. And a lot of us do have the trauma from that 0 to 7 years, and so he can take us there, and he can, in a safe, supportive way, because he's got this beautiful energy. And yeah.
it's a beautiful space to bring him up in. It's a very pure space because, you know, not everyone gets that opportunity to be so connected to their emotions and be grounded at the same time from the day you're born. Like that's the thing that's missing for us. And I find it really fascinating. I would love it if even the schools incorporated more of this kind of thing for children. I watched such a beautiful thing yesterday on social media. I came across it, this teacher talking to her class about, you know, if you don't like somebody, it doesn't mean that, you know, she was trying to talk through the appropriate ways of dealing with your emotions and your feelings. And one of the things was like, it's okay if you don't like another person because not everyone's going to like everyone, which is so true in the world. But somewhere along the line, we also have to put up with one another because we're sharing the space and we got to be respectful. And one of the things I loved that she said was, just because you don't like that person doesn't give you the right to go and get people on your side and share how you feel with everyone else to try and get them on your side and gang up and make them feel alone. And I was like, that is beautiful because that is what's missing, is understanding that emotions can cause a person to be either alone, rejected, or happy and loved. And it all comes down to, as another human being, how we're treating one another. And so what you guys are doing, I think, is so incredibly important, and I love it. I really do. And one other thing that came through very strongly for me was the moment I came into that room on Sunday for the workshop, I realized how much I missed it, how much I missed having a spiritual connection, how much I missed being in that space and doing those kind of things, and how much joy it brings to my life and brings to the relationships in my life, and how it makes me better in so many ways. It doesn't, you know, like you say, it's a long journey. You don't change overnight, but if you're willing to put in the work, you can work through a lot of things that have been like a preset for you, that you know is not really you, and it's just a default for you to fall back on because for whatever crazy joke the universe is playing on us, it seems that it's easy for us to fall into bad habits, and it's easy for us to stay in that dark cloud and be negative than do the work to be in the light and to, you know, keep it there.
Mm,
I do
yeah.
find it crazy.
Yeah, and it's finding a way to, really, for me, I've found a way to be able to journey into those dark places, guide myself through my own internal light, and be able to go to those depths and really embrace all parts of me and all emotions, and let go of the good and bad and the negative and positive and the right and wrong, and kind of just starting to feel more of a discernment of what is true for me, what feels right for me in this moment, and really integrating the darkness and the light, and not avoiding or chasing one, and just really, yeah,
Just
flowing with
being,
life.
right?
Yeah, just being. Yeah.
Mm. Why is it that we find it hard to just be? Why do we always seek to control everything and seek to, like, I don't know, like we can't just let things be. We can't be like water on a duck's back. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Don't let that affect you. Someone else is having a bad day. Don't let that affect your day.
Yeah.
Like things like that. I find really interesting that we are not able to just be in our own space when we need it.
And I think it's a practice. And when we go back to, like, especially that 0 to 7 years, and even when you're in the womb, um, you're absorbing, and you're in like the kind of, I believe it's so with the delta or theta state, and I think it's the delta, and you kind of move up into the different levels, but you're in such a kind of open, receptive space where you're absorbing, and you're like this sponge, and you're learning how to navigate the world, but you're learning from people that are wounded and holding trauma and have programs and beliefs that don't serve them, and then you take them on as truth, and you create these kind of like onions and these layers that you then have to start to work and peel back to come to your true essence,
Mm,
whereas that, which is the being.
mm,
But we have quite a lot of layers to these onions, especially just with all the stuff that we hold and we don't allow ourselves to feel. And it comes back to those programs, and we really
yeah.
need to start to rewire and let go of the programs that aren't serving, let go of the beliefs that aren't serving, and start to transition and transform those. And that's what we really aim to offer, is these safe spaces via workshop, retreats, online programs, and kind of whatever feels intuitively right in the moment to serve, and to give people the tools to peel back those layers. And yeah, it's not an easy journey. It does take work, it does take time, but it's so rewarding, because for
Yes.
me, like, my journey started with depression and anxiety and panic and feeling unsafe and needing to control, needing to be perfect, worrying about what people thought of me, what I said, what I wore, how I looked, how my makeup was. If I ate in front of a boy, it was like terrifying. Like,
I
there's
can
like,
relate on that one.
yeah, girls don't poo kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. Like,
All these norms.
yeah, all the guys, like, it's weak to feel emotion, like all these programs and beliefs that get like broadcasted, and we take on, and we think we've got to be a certain way and hide certain parts of ourselves. And it's that journey home really is what we aim to offer in these spaces, and the community, to remind everyone, like, you're not alone. Like, we often think we're alone in what we're feeling because we're with ourselves all the time, and we tend to not be around a lot of other people that are going through the same things. And when we start to open these different spaces, like the workshop that you attended, that's where we start to realize, oh, I'm not alone. But when we don't continuously immerse ourselves in these spaces and with these people that serve us, and like kind of add value, and that we can be really authentically ourselves and also hold space for others to be authentically themselves, and it's a give and take,
Mm,
like that beautiful equal exchange. And yeah, when we can kind of learn to be in that space, then we really build that sense of community, build that sense of safety, and we really know we're not alone, because we can go to a workshop or attend something and have this beautiful experience, but it's very easy to go back to what we know, because we are creatures of comfort. We like to know and be able to predict and anticipate to protect ourselves. That's our survival mechanism when we used to be living in the wild and we needed to know what was coming to protect ourselves. And now it's very different, but that's, I think, why we tend to go back to those old ways, or we tend to, like, yeah, go back to that comfort, because we can predict, even if it's uncomfortable, at
mm,
least we know, we can prepare for it, we can, yeah, navigate it a little bit more. But when we start to step into this unknown, or like, what I really resonate with is when we start to actually experience incredible joy, sometimes what comes up is like, when's that other shoe going to drop? When's someone going to take this away from me? When am I going to lose it? And then so it's actually easier to stay in a more kind of quote unquote negative space or a negative emotion, because, or like even dull or numb to life, because at least someone can't take it away. Or if we criticize ourselves, if we own, like, oh, I already know that, then we're protecting ourselves from someone else saying that critical thing and hurting us, because we're like, oh, I already know, and it's like a deflection.
mm. Absolutely. It is very scary. And I think one of the most important takeaways, like even from the work you guys do and that workshop, is that you don't just go once and you're healed. You have to continue the journey if you want to truly heal and you really and truly want to work through the traumas. You have to continue that journey, even if it is with yourself on a daily routine or a meditation or whatever it might be, some kind of practice, talking to the community, being in touch, following up with more retreats, when you can. I think that is very, very important because it is very scary. It's very scary facing all the stuff. And I think that aspect of being alone also comes from, okay, so I've said all these things now, that all these traumas, all these things that have happened to me. I'm sure nobody wants to hear that about me again. I'm sure no one wants to hear I'm having a bad day, because they must probably having a good day and I don't want to be the downer. So then you retreat and you end up becoming that alone sense, around you again, instead of continuing through that journey and connecting with that community and saying, you know what, not having a good day today, or today I am feeling joy, but I am scared that it's going to be taken away from me.
Let someone hold you in that. Let someone be there for you. And I think, yeah, like you said, through immersion, repetition, consistency, community, that's where those like deep transformations take place and your entire life shifts when you really
Yes.
let yourself go within and you let yourself be held and supported.
Mm.
It just game changer.
And that's why I believe that you have absolutely come into my path at the perfect moment, because um, I don't feel alone anymore. Like I knew I was starting this journey and I knew I had to face a lot of demons on the way, but I felt alone about it. And I felt like this is going to be really long and really hard. And then next thing, you guys appeared, and the community that you've created has appeared, and I no longer feel alone, but I also feel like I have a extra tool to help me keep it up, keep going, keep doing it, keep taking another step towards that light, keep the ritual going. I got the ceremonial pack from you, and with the little recipe and everything. And I even looked on your app and you have like some other stuff happening there and a little ebook and stuff, and I was like, this is so beautiful, because without this, I wouldn't be able to continue it. I wouldn't be able to be like, right now, I need to make it part of my daily routine. There's no excuse, because it's easy to fall back in the habit. It's easy to fall back and be like, well, I did that. That was great. That was on Sunday. Today's Friday. And, well, no progress. It's very, very easy to do that. And as you also said on the Sunday, that everyone's going to start feeling stuff still throughout the week, and to be kind to yourself. And I also definitely felt that. I felt like I went through a roller coaster of emotions this week. From at the end of that workshop, I couldn't speak because I was very emotional still, to when I did speak, I pretty much cried still the whole time while I was talking, to then feeling overwhelmed by emotion, to then going to a place where I felt numb of emotion. Like I had nothing left and no emotion and no feelings of anything. And I felt a bit like useless in a sense, but I allowed myself to feel it anyway. I was like, I'm not comfortable. I don't like this. I don't know why this is happening. I was like, well, my rational thinking is that obviously it's still part of the process. And, I have just put myself through a lot over the last while, especially emotionally. So be kind to myself and just feel it, just feel the nothingness. And then yesterday I felt more frustration and more like I was annoyed. Everything anyone did around me annoyed me. My poor family. Like I was just very annoyed yesterday. But again, I was like, it's okay. Like I have to feel it. There's a reason for this. I'm trying to process stuff. I'm trying to get through it. I'm trying to think about it. And the other thing I kept doing is writing. So every chance I've got my pen and paper next to me now. And every chance I get, I just write something, even if it's a couple of sentences or just a little paragraph. And you made me laugh because when you explained it on Sunday, saying to everyone, start by just saying, I don't know what to write. Literally, that was what I started with. It's like, I don't know what I'm writing. And then next thing, 10 pages later, I'm like, well, clearly I actually did have something to say.
Yeah, I think sometimes just putting pen to paper, it opens something.
It definitely does. And so I'm looking forward to like this shadow work that I'm doing. A lot of people have suggested like going back after a while and reading, because it will also help you on the journey, knowing how far you're going, how far you've come, what changes have taken place, maybe some insights into some things. I'm not quite at that stage yet because I still think it's weird to read my own stuff. Like the moment I've written it out, I kind of feel like it's done, like make it go away. But we'll see. It's interesting. I'm very open to this new journey. I'm very open to seeing where it goes and how I feel, and trying very hard to not hold back on the emotions anymore and not be apologetic for it either, because I think that is so important. I mean, I've had to pre-warn everyone around me, like, if I'm emotional, don't take it personally.
Yeah, and I love that because it's so often that when we do start to share and express, we feel the need to apologize for it. So, yeah, we're not really allowing ourselves to fully
That's it.
feel, and we are feeling wrong for expressing ourselves. So, yeah.
We shouldn't be apologetic at all.
Mm.
We shouldn't have to explain ourselves. Like um we should just be able to process the way we need to process
Yeah.
and have that support system. So yeah, like having the daily rituals and having that community and staying in touch and keeping it going, I think is very important, just as important as doing the workshop
Mm. Yeah.
and follow-up work.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And I feel like this conversation was just so incredibly valuable, and just even like like sharing your journey and the feeling that and the feelings that were coming up for you, because I think so many of us can really resonate, and having those like extra shares of like what really came through for you around the insights and what you can do to support yourself and move forward, and the importance of continuing the work. Yeah, I think that's
Yes.
really valuable for people to hear, and
Yeah,
yeah, thank
it's
you so
it's been
much.
a pleasure. Thank you so much. And like I said, I feel that I started with no tools to help me on this emotional journey, and now I have at least one, and that gives hope to keep going. And I think anyone that resonates with anything we've said definitely should do it.
Yeah, and that's why we have the additional tools as well, is to support that integration process. So like you said, like the ebook with the cacao and the breath practice, the ceremony packs to kind of get you started if you're new to journeying with
Yes.
cacao, and with the app as well. We're really excited about the app. It's fairly new, but those free practices, I believe there's about 4, and that will continue to grow as well. But that will just be there to support people, because a lot can come up. Mm.
And especially the one thing I didn't mention is the singing bowls. When you guys did the sound journey, that was incredible to end the workshop on the singing bowls, because it really then does ground you and help you feel like you're a bit more elevated. It helps you feel a bit more light.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much, and you will see more of me, I'm sure. Can't
Yeah,
get rid of me now.
it's really awesome though to connect with you, and just to even just hear more about your journey. And yeah, I think there's real power in sharing the journey and being seen, and letting others know that it's safe for them to do that too. So
Thank you so much, Monique.
you're so welcome.